Yeah.
So this sort of gets onto sort of the last sort of question that we're sort of covering is how do we manage the impacts of the eating disorder on our lives, on
School.
family members, school, other siblings,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Wow, it's huge impact on families, you know, and it impacts on each individual in the family as well as relationships in the family. And so when it comes to school, again, we've talked about confidentiality, and we really encourage parents to let somebody know at school, let the head of year or at least have one or two people know at school about what they're going through,
Counselor,
and counselor maybe, but also mainly just that you might be missing some classes,
or
you know, for
things.
appointments. And it's really important that they not only know that your young person is getting treatment, but also the importance of the regular eating that we talked about, and how important it is that they have time and space for morning tea and lunch. And if the young person is able to eat at school, that there is a space that they can go to eat, and sometimes that needs to be separate from the other kids if they are struggling, and maybe that can be arranged with the school nurse or maybe even the counselor, just some space, someplace quiet to eat. But for other kids, they're able to eat with their peers, but they say things like, oh, but I don't have time because of music practice, or I have this, you know, committee meeting, and so
lots of commitments.
Oh, it's just crazy busy. And so really pulling back again, prioritizing eating, and going to your school and saying, wouldn't it be better for all the kids if the first 15 minutes of lunch there was never a meeting scheduled?
Yes.
That actually you're prioritizing 15-20 minutes for eating, and then the second half can be for those other activities. So I think that's a really good message that parents can take to schools as a bigger thing for all kids, really, and the importance of that. I think we, you know, as parents, we can get caught up in school being super important, right? And, you know, kids, a lot of these kids are high achievers. They want to do well, and so I can't possibly miss that class, or I have to have that assessment. And so a good message to give is say, yeah, it's important, but actually health comes first.
Yes.
So really in your own mind, kind of working through, what if this gets really hard? What if she or he has to miss more school and take time off? And what if they get behind? And kind of working through letting it go in your own mind, because we all have hopes for and expectations for our kids, and even if we're not putting pressure on them, they're going to feel it on some level.
Absolutely.
And they push themselves.
Yes.
So really important to offset that with, you know, this is a year for getting well.
Yes.
You know, if you have to do some summer papers to make up, that's fine. Older adolescents, if you have to take a gap year, that's okay. And it's just planting those seeds early so that there's no pressure. You're taking the pressure off on the school, and you're prioritizing health and getting well.
What would you do in regard to, say, eating at lunchtime?
Yeah, and I think, you know, often we're saying to family, it's hard to eat at school in the first instance, and so if you can juggle your work schedule to go into school and have lunch with them in the car,
right?
Which of course kids hate.
Yes.
And so for most kids, it's a trial and error. So with our service and our treatment, it involves regular weight gain each week. So if you are wanting to trial eating at school, you know, you might give the young person a chance, again, the older adolescents. All right, let's give it 1 week, and if you're eating at school, and promise me you're eating at school, and you get that weight gain, then that's fine. But if next week we don't get a weight gain, I'm going to start coming in.
Right.
So they have a bit of time to step up.
Yeah.
But if the eating disorder is really strong and they can't get that, then it is saying, I'm sorry, just for a while. You know, even some kids have to come out of school and just do half days for a while, come home for lunch. So again, it's prioritizing treatment, prioritizing that weight gain, and doing whatever it takes to do that. But of course, the impact of that is huge. The stress on parents of an eating disorder, on their relationship, on siblings and on sibling relationships really is huge. And so I think what we talk a lot about is not burning out as a couple, or if you're a single parent. For couples, it's as much as possible tag teaming, and maybe, really trying to get, both parents home at dinner time, or one parent doing breakfast and the other doing dinner, and the other going in at lunch, one going in at lunchtime and one doing dessert. So you're kind of sharing the load. There is often one that has to work more, and so the other one might be doing the lion's share, but on the weekend, the other one steps up and does more of the meal support. So you're trying to share the load. You're trying to look after your own mental health and know when you're stressed and know when you've hit your limit, and saying, walk away, I need to take time out here. And look at how you recharge. Look at how you fill your own cup. Can you take that 5 minutes at lunchtime and go for a walk? Can you, meet that friend for a coffee and debrief a bit? Or how do you recharge as an individual, each of you? How do you recharge as a couple? So this is where we're really encouraging extended family to get involved if possible. And come in and, have a date night,
And I think in regard to that as well, it's probably quite helpful for the young person to see, not to be so riddled with shame and guilt, and to realise that there is aspects that, I'm not so, the mum and dad are able still to go out. They can
that's
go.
Right. That's right. And even if the eating disorder is strong that night and they don't eat well with grandma, it's just one night. It's more important that the parents have a break in the bigger picture, and so let it go. And you're back on track next week, and so you're balancing and that and getting that break. And don't be afraid to call on friends. So particularly for siblings, okay? So siblings are really, siblings can get quite resentful.
And they can feel a little bit like no one's paying attention to me.
There can be the younger ones that are feeling the effects of not having as much attention. There can be the older ones that are feeling the impacts of the family don't go out as often. They didn't, we don't get takeaways anymore, or I can't have friends over because he or she is so upset all the time, and so it really impacts on their day-to-day life. And so having a look at how you could, again, maybe tag team if there's two parents, that one parent takes a sibling out on the weekend for some one-to-one time, or doing that activity together. If it's a single parent, you might organize the neighbor to go out with them, or that aunt or uncle, say, look, can you just take take the sibling out for the afternoon on the weekend just for something fun. And then lastly, trying to do what we call non-ED time, trying to just a family time that's kind of hard to do with food. So you're trying to find an activity like putt-putt golf or something, mini golf, or something that's not too energizing, but that is fun for the whole family, and provides that time away from the eating disorder where you can all connect a bit. And so, and I know bringing in, we talked about the stigma stuff and not being afraid to educate people and bring extended family and friends in. And I think as well, that resilience is often, we use a metaphor sometimes of a spider in a web that has lots of connections can survive a storm much better than a spider in a web with just a few. So we talk about the crossover actually of young people needing people around them, those connections to help them stay strong through this time, and parents needing that connection around them to survive the storm, and really thinking about how it's role modeling asking for help. It's okay to ask for help, and it's being a good role model to your kids to say, A, mental health things happen and that's okay, and B, it's okay to ask for help and get support, and that you're stronger for it.
Well, that's great. And I think that it's it's sort of during this sort of whole sort of process, it's like that the building of the trust and connection between between everybody, and particularly the young person, to build those sort of
Yeah.
lines of
Yeah.
of connection,
Yeah.
and that,
Which
they know
can be a rough ride, you know.
Yeah, it
and,
can
and,
be,
and
yeah.
you know, we really do hit up against adolescent rebellion.
Yes.
At the same time, sometimes as an eating disorder coming into the household, and so the eating disorder uses it for itself a bit, and
Yes.
you know, it can be pretty rough and pretty hard.
Yeah.
But underneath it all, those tight boundaries are really key. And it's like, yes, I understand you have an eating disorder and your anxiety's high, but it's not okay to be violent, or it's not okay to swear, and having those tight
Yeah.
boundaries within families.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can get alongside your young person and have those quiet times too, and say,
Yeah.
you know, you're off. It's classic with teenagers that if you're doing something, going for a drive, or you know, going for a walk in the gardens, you just gently say, look, it's been pretty rough, you know,
Yeah.
this is hard, how
Yeah.
are you coping? So try and find those moments of connection.
Yep.
They might be fleeting, and even if they blow you off and say, I'm fine, and are a bit twitchy about it, do it
They
again.
know that you care.
They know that
Yeah.
you care, and do it again a week or two later.
Yeah.
You know, just keep
Yeah.
quietly being there for them,
Yeah.
and saying, I'm still here for you,
Yep.
I still love you,
Yep.
and we're going to get through this.
Well, that's great. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you,
thanks.
Heidi.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. It's good to talk.